So, Evan, I think we need to talk about a very important topic. That is the how long question. How long before I see results? It doesn't matter. It's SEO, pay per click. It's a common question, and maybe we can tackle the SEO side of things so that the business owner who's listening to it, who can understand digital market a little better, because marketing online is very different. Especially there's so many variables, so many factors. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think before we even, talk about a timeline, let's talk about the variables that could change the timeline, right? That could be, first of all, what is this business niche, right? I think marketing and other niches are more competitive. And then also we need to factor in the location too. So if we're marketing maybe in a smaller town, might be a little easier than trying to market in New York City or Chicago or something like that. But once again, the niche would also be a variable too, looking at the competition within these areas. And then also, the budget of the campaign, what channel, are we doing as well? Specifically SEO,
Right.
That would take a little longer, let's say, than obviously pay per click.
You're right. And I think there's two ways to look at it. This is what we've been talking about lately is what is your business model? Is there enough demand for what you provide that we can use SEO or paid media, Facebook ads, whatever, to capture the demand for it and generate the leads? Or
are we creating the demand?
That's right. That's the other part. It's the creation of the demand, because you may be in a newer industry. Maybe this product is not as well known. Maybe you're a newer brand.
Right. Maybe there's not a lot of search for you either on the internet. Like, because you said it's a new brand, it's up and coming in the industry as well, which makes it harder.
A different type of service that's similar. So, are you going to optimize for those similar terms, or are you going to optimize for the term?
Right. How broad can we go? Because this is so new. We're creating this demand compared to the demand is already there. Now, are we focusing locally, statewide, nationally, internationally?
Creating demand is so much harder than just capturing the demand. So if you're in the space and you have to create the demand, you can't expect results in 3 months and 10 months and whatever. It doesn't matter. You have to create the content that is going to allow the people to see it, sort of top of funnel content.
Right. You have to tell them why they need you and how important it is.
Or solve all the issues around it and talk about all the other things, why you need this. There are 5 reasons why this doesn't work, 10 things why, and then promote the content. So people that are interested in those topics will see it. And then one of the solution is your groundbreaking technology, right? So that they get introduced to the idea.
What makes you
can
unique?
Create.
Right.
And then you can ask them, like, take a quiz, run an audit, find out if you're a good fit, save money. Here's how to do it. And then you create the middle of funnel to capture the demand. But creation of demand, I think it's probably the hardest thing to do it from a time perspective. To do it in a short period of time, it wouldn't be possible, right? Like when eBay came out, the idea of online auctions, that was not a thing. Everybody know physical auctions, but online auction, they were the first ones. So they created and had to teach people how to bid on it and, all the hard things and, click, 10 cents, $1, $5. That was a thing that you had to teach someone, or Uber or any one of those examples.
But I think there's also what type of demand are we looking at too? Because you brought up a good point. Hey, they have the ease of sitting at home and learning how to use eBay, but maybe for a business, the demand you're creating requires more effort from the consumer of the demand you're trying to create.
Yeah.
So me clicking a button at home as I'm using the internet, this new technology to play games and certain things when I'm younger and learning how to use eBay was pretty simple. It took maybe 15 or 20 minutes to create myself as a demand or a customer, compared to maybe businesses creating that demand could be, like you said, longer timeline. It could be a lot harder to create
depending
demand.
Depending on the demographics.
Right. And that goes back to the SEO factors. Where are we located? What is our industry? Having that demand is always better, but creating that also has factors too that could take longer or shorter.
And even if the demand was already there and all we had to do was capture it, there's several ways to go about it, right? Some companies still can't get that right because they may be optimizing the wrong keywords. Maybe they're going after the most competitive terms out there rather than the low hanging fruit to see some initial results.
And I think you should be going after those, just a side note, simultaneously all the time, 24/7.
Sure. And that way you can see some initial results, offset the cost of, or the investment rather, of the whole entire campaign, to then go after the more competitive terms, because you may not see any results on the competitive terms and you may need a lot of content. Maybe you need a lot of brand awareness, right? And a lot of site engagement. Really authoritative sites are the only ones that can compete on the highly competitive terms.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe working on local keywords and, regional keywords before
Strategy.
you work on national. Right, exactly. To see what is something that I can get faster results.
Mm-hmm.
How can I capture the demand? So let's just use an example of a company. Let's say they have a product or service that there is already demand, but they're also creating a product or service where there's no demand yet, but that's their future. That's the new version of whatever we used to do. Let's just say that they were creating, it's a restaurant, they're flipping the burger by hand, but there's a robot, right? That's the new, nobody's searching for the robot, right? Think about it. That's the future of that business. How would you go about it? I would then probably optimize for what's physically there, capture the hamburger demand. Would you say that?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting.
Right, variation.
So
variation. I'm hungry. Variations of that keyword that already exists that people already are looking for hamburger joints. Mm-hmm. And then you can talk about the robotic hamburgers. I'm just using that as an example.
Yeah.
There's no one looking for it. So you can talk about why robots are better and how it doesn't burn your burger and how it can cook it for faster and whatever else. Maybe you're selling the robotic hamburger machine. It doesn't matter.
Right.
You don't have to be a restaurant.
That content may be, great for one audience, but not work for another audience. So in this specific example, you'd want to make sure, like you said, that if I'm the hamburger joint, that it makes sense for my audience from a demographic perspective and capturing the right demand, because you can capture the wrong demand.
You won't see any conversions.
Correct.
Right? That's the thing. That conversions will dictate whether or not you have the right type of traffic coming to your website. So back to the how long question, because again, I don't think we've clearly answered that question.
Yeah.
So let's think about that. If you are in a space and you happen to be in a highly competitive space, it's going to take you way longer than someone with a little bit less competition. Maybe you're a local business and there's spots that you can rank for. I would say that's within a year, you should see tremendous amount of results from a campaign, right? I'm giving it the most amount of time.
Yeah, I would think that's about right.
Right.
Like we said, depending on every industry or niche, you could see initial or small results, I would say within 3 months. Then you can see more results within 6 months. But, to actually see maybe a dramatic increase in conversions, right? That could take a year or more. So I think you could see results, but are they results that you're looking for, and what are your expectations?
And you can certainly expedite that by investing more time and more budget and things like that. Create more content.
Even other channels outside of SEO.
Right. So I was saying that, but with modest and moderate budgets, you still have to give it a year. Just like any investment, it doesn't. You don't just double your investment overnight, right? So there are instances, that's where it kind of screws people off, is there are instances people see faster results and they say, well, my campaign is not doing well. You have to remember that every keyword is unique. And so you can't take someone else's results and say, well, that's the reason why, that worked and why doesn't it work for this? You can't do that. Mm-hmm. The same campaign for 2 different keywords will have a varied weeks and months before you see any movement.
Going back to the other factors.
Correct. So then let's talk about an industry or a product or service where you have to create the demand. Do you see what I'm saying? It's way more harder. We already know that. You have to create a lot more content to get in front of the right people, and you need to promote it way more. So you're creating a lot of webinars and top of funnels and ebook, and you're creating, some kind of a system where they can see the first post and then they can download, right, the checklist or ebook or whatever, and then nurture them. I mean, there's a lot of work that you need to do.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of something that comes up to the top of my head that would be considered new. AI has demand. Telepsychiatry. We could talk about that.
Well, I'm saying any particular industry who's trying to create the demand will have to give significant more time. Right. That's all I'm saying. So it could be 2 years, I would say 3 years before the market can pick it up. And then there's other people talking about it so they can naturally link it to you. Mm-hmm. There are enough websites out there that you can go get links from. But I'll use an example, ABM, right? Account-based marketing. That is a newer thing. It was around, the idea was around, but nobody was talking about ABM. Now there's a whole industry around it. But that didn't happen in 2 weeks or 2 months or 3 months. So the guy who's creating the software for ABM couldn't be like saying, how are we going to get some more customers? Because there was nobody talking about it. So they had to create so many events across the country, across the globe, create Facebook pages, groups, YouTube channel, right? There's so many things, speak at other conferences, sales and marketing to talk about why they should do ABM. That's how that industry actually was created and formed. It wasn't like it happened overnight. I would say it took probably 3 or 4 years before it became a thing. So I want to give that business owner who's trying to create this thing and they're not seeing the traction, some hope that it is not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time and it's okay.
Right. We have to
Right?
set the
It's
right
okay.
expectations.
Correct. It's okay because you are trying to change the world and that didn't happen overnight.
And SEO is a long-term game too, right?
Absolutely.
So we can
Or
do paid
even
and
if-
get conversions, but the moment we stop that, no more conversions come through compared to SEO. You're investing in that. So even if you stop doing SEO, you could still see results and conversions for months, even years, depending on your industry, after you've built that traction, which is the whole point of SEO.
Even if you did paid in a new industry where you have to capture or create the demand, it's going to take time.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's organic or paid or anything like that. People just wouldn't even care because they don't know. So you have to create so much content. And that probably is the every other word could come out of your mouth is this thing that you're trying to do so that more people can hear about it. And then instead of going deeper into that subject, you got to keep it at the top.
Right.
Awareness. And don't worry about the bottom of the funnel because guess what? They don't even know why they need it. Right. So they have to give it enough time, like water and sunlight for a long period of time for them to even see any results from that. So I would give it probably 2 or 3 years, in my opinion, with, again, moderate budgets. But if you want to go more aggressive, yes, you can see more results. But again, everybody's trying to weigh in their ROI, right? So they don't want to invest $1 million if they're not going to see any results. But I feel that you're going to have to. There's no other way, unless the industry is growing by other people like you, growing in that fast, then maybe you can capture some of that demand that's growing. Truly, to create demand, you need to take a lot of time.
Yeah.
And then there's other aspects of it so you can capture it, right? You can manage the leads and nurture the leads and things like that. So you can actually close them. But we're just talking about the timeline. So I'd say something along year or sub-year for something that's already there is realistic.
Right.
So nobody ever comes out of the bat and say, well, I ran some Facebook ads and then all of a sudden my business blew up 8x.
Right. It doesn't happen. If that was happening, everyone would be doing it.
Exactly. Or it could happen to that one guy and it's just not a realistic thing for everybody else, right? The Jared, the Subway guy, he lost a lot of weight in maybe a couple of years, but everybody else try to eat Subway probably won't. So that's a fad. So, and then the guy who's trying to create the demand is obviously in the long game. I would say in the longer game, it would take a lot more effort, and that would definitely
you have to plan out what's going to happen.
Correct. Any final thoughts? Anything that we can share about it? And I hope that the example of creating versus capturing was useful to think about it, because every single person kind of goes through that. Even if you are Microsoft or big companies, like, well, what are we going to get in terms of our ROI? It is a conversation at every table when it comes to marketing and sales and things like that. And you just have to know, well, what's your business model? Are there people ready to buy this product? And if yes, if I put your stuff in front of that audience, will they buy it? Had they known that this is the right thing for them and this is going to, outweigh their whatever pain is, then yeah, they'll do it, right? But if there's nobody who knows about this thing, it's going to take significantly longer. So before I could even tell you when or how long, let's talk about what is it that you really are trying to accomplish here.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think that's a great way to end it and a great way to put it too.
All right.
But I appreciate you having me, and I look forward to coming back again.
Thank you, my man.